Beneath the glittering chandeliers and golden gowns, power and ambition rule every corner of New York's high society. But in the Gilded Age Season 3, Episode 8, the shine begins to crack and secrets spill into the open. What looks like triumph for some is actually the beginning of downfall for others. Let's unravel the ending that left everyone talking. Asterisk, the story builds toward its finale with a mix of ambition, romance, and betrayal. Bertha Russell continues her relentless fight to claim her place at the top of New York society. She has always believed that money can buy her way into any circle, but in this episode, we see her realizing that power is not just about wealth, it's about control, reputation, and timing. Her rivalry with Mrs. Astor has reached a boiling point, and the choices she makes in this final hour will shape her future forever. Meanwhile, George Russell faces storms of his own in the world of business. His reputation, built on strength and determination, begins to show cracks. The railroads and financial investments that once seemed uncheckable now threaten to collapse under the pressure of politics and rivals who wait for a single mistake. George must decide whether to fight with all his might or make sacrifices that could cost him his pride. Marian, caught between independence and tradition, faces her most personal decision yet. Her quiet strength has grown through the season, and in Episode 8, the consequences of her choices finally catch up with her. Will she follow her heart, or will society's expectations cage her once again? Her storyline ties the emotional heart of the episode, reminding us that love in the Gilded Age was never just about feelings. It was about survival, position, and identity. Peggy Scott continues to break barriers as a woman of color navigating a world designed to shut her out. Her writing, her courage, and her determination to fight for her voice make her one of the most compelling characters of the season. But even as she moves forward in her career, Episode 8 reminds us that her struggles are far from over. Family, tensions, social barriers, and personal sacrifices weigh heavily on her future. The episode weaves these stories together like a grand ballroom dance, each step building tension until the final scenes bring everything to a head. In the fading light of chandeliers and whispers behind closed doors, the world of the Gilded Age changes forever. The finale doesn't just end stories, it sets the stage for a new war of power, love, and betrayal that will carry into the next season. Asterisk, the final moments of the Gilded Age Season 3, Episode 8 are not just a closing act. They are the strike of a hammer that reshapes the entire story. Every glance, every whispered word, every decision carries weight. The walls of New York's grand mansions hold secrets, but in this episode, some of those secrets are forced into the light. The ending begins in the glitter of Bertha Russell's grand ballroom, where power is not spoken, it is displayed. The chandeliers blaze above, the gowns shimmer, and the air is heavy with tension. This is Bertha's battlefield. For weeks, she has fought to cement her place in the highest circle of society, defying Mrs. Astor's grip on New York's social order. But as the night unfolds, it becomes clear victory comes with a price. When Bertha takes her place at the center of attention, surrounded by whispers of approval and envy, her eyes betray something deeper. She has won the room, yes, but at what cost to her soul, her family, and the fragile alliances she has built? George Russell, ever the titan of industry, enters these final scenes with the weight of his empire pressing down upon him. The financial world is ruthless, and as rivals close in, George finds himself cornered. His calm, commanding voice no longer sounds like victory, it sounds like survival. In the quiet moments after the party, when the noise of society fades, George faces the truth. The empire he has built may not stand forever. His handshake deals and iron will cannot silence every storm. In Episode 8's ending, George is not the uncheckable giant we met before. He is a man forced to admit that even titans can bleed. Marian's story reaches a quiet yet devastating moment. Away from the glamour of the ballrooms, she is faced with the choice that defines her season. Love, freedom, and independence clash with the expectations laid upon her shoulders. In a scene that feels both tender and heartbreaking, Marian looks into the eyes of the man she may lose forever. The silence. between them speaks louder than words. Here, the ending reminds us that the Gilded Age was not just about the clash of wealth and power, it was also about the sacrifices demanded by society. Marian, caught in that storm, becomes the face of those sacrifices. Her tears are hidden. Her smile is faint, but her decision leaves scars that may never heal. Then comes Peggy Scott's final stand in this episode. She does not wear diamonds or silk, but her weapon is sharper than any jewel: her words, her conviction, her truth. Peggy's path has been marked with obstacles at every turn, yet in episode 8 she faces them head-on. The ending shows Peggy confronting the narrow-minded walls that surround her career and her personal life. She fights not only for herself, but for the generations who will come after her. In a single scene, Peggy's determination burns brighter than any chandelier, reminding the audience that true power is not inherited, it is earned. But what makes this ending unforgettable is not just what the characters do, but the way the episode frames their choices. The camera lingers on faces just long enough for us to feel their pain. The music swells and then softens, as if the city itself is holding its breath. Every character stands at a crossroads and none of them leave. Unscarred, Bertha's triumph is not pure. George's strength is not invincible. Marian's love is not free. Peggy's courage is not without cost. The finale weaves these truths together, leaving the audience with one undeniable message. Beneath the golden glow of the Gilded Age, shadows are growing. As the final shot fades, a carriage rolling into the night, a face caught in half-light, or a letter left unopened, the audience is left unsettled. This is not closure, this is not peace. This is a warning. The battles of wealth, love, and identity are far from over. And when the next season begins, the war for power in New York will return fiercer than ever. The ending of the Gilded Age Season 3 Episode 8 does not simply tie up stories. It reshapes the paths of the characters we have followed all season. Each one leaves the finale changed, scarred, or emboldened. To truly understand the weight of the ending, we must look at how each arc closes and what it reveals about the person behind the silks. Wealth and carefully rehearsed smiles, Bertha Russell emerges as both victor and prisoner. On the surface, she achieves the victory she has chased since the day she first demanded a seat at society's table. The great ball, the whispered approval of her rivals, the reluctant nods from the old guard. Bertha finally wins recognition. Yet, in the quiet aftermath, when the chandeliers are dimmed and the guests depart, the hollowness of her triumph becomes clear. She has sacrificed more than her pride. She has sacrificed trust. The alliances she has bent into shape may hold for now, but they are fragile, brittle as glass. Bertha's arc ends not with joy but with a haunting realization. Power once won must constantly be defended, and the higher she rises, the lonelier the climb becomes. The finale paints her not as a woman satisfied, but as a queen who has taken the throne only to discover it is made of ice. George Russell is perhaps the most shaken by the events of the finale. Throughout the series, he has been the immovable titan, the man whose voice could command industries and whose money could silence rivals. But in episode 8, the cracks in his empire spread wider. Business deals collapse, political enemies sharpen their knives, and George is forced to face the terrifying truth that even his wealth may not protect him forever. His arc closes on a note of vulnerability, a rare glimpse of a man who has always seen himself as unbreakable. In the shadows of his study, George is no longer the invincible mogul, he is a man staring into the abyss of loss. This ending does not destroy him, but it reminds the audience that titans can fall, and when they do, the crash echoes louder than anyone else's. Marian Brooke carries the heart of the finale. Her arc does not end in triumph, but in quiet tragedy. All season, she has balanced her yearning for independence against the suffocating expectations of her family and society. In episode 8, that conflict reaches its cruelest moment. Marian must choose, and in choosing she loses something precious. Her story closes with a silence that feels heavier than a scream. She embodies the theme of sacrifice, showing us that in this glittering age, women were forced to trade freedom for survival, love for security, and dreams for duty. The audience watches Marian walk away from what her heart desires, and though she stands tall, her shadow reveals the cost of her decision. She is both stronger and broken, her spirit bent but not destroyed. Peggy Scott shines brightest in the finale. Her journey has been one of resilience in a society eager to silence her. Episode 8 pushes her into the harshest of tests, balancing the pursuit of her career with the demands of family and the barriers of prejudice. Her final scenes pulse with determination. She speaks truths that others fear, she demands space where none is offered, and she carries the weight of not just her own struggles but those of countless others who share her fight. Peggy's arc ends on a note of fierce defiance, though she does not yet conquer the world that stands against her. She plants her flag firmly in the ground, declaring with her actions that she will not be erased. The finale gives her no easy victories, but it gives her dignity, fire, and the promise that her voice will only grow louder. Beyond these four, the secondary characters also leave the episode marked. Old money elites like Mrs. Astor retreat, wounded but not destroyed, plotting their next countermove. Servants and staff, though often silent in the background, watch the tremors of their employer's world and know their own lives will shift. In the aftershocks, the city itself feels alive at the end of episode 8, as though the streets, carriages, and houses sense that change is coming. What makes these arcs so powerful is that none of them truly end. They bend, they fracture, they evolve. The finale ensures that every character stands at a threshold, ready to step into a future that is more uncertain than ever. Bertha has her crown, but it is fragile. George has his empire, but it trembles. Marian has her dignity, but it costs her love. Peggy has her fire, but the world still threatens to extinguish it. By the time the screen fades, the audience is left with an unsettling clarity. These characters are not just figures in a story, they are reflections of timeless struggles. Ambition, love, betrayal, courage. The finale holds up a mirror, and in their journeys, we see echoes of our own. The finale of the Gilded Age Season 3, Episode 8, is not just about characters and events, it is about ideas, symbols, and the shifting tides of a society caught between two worlds. Every scene in the closing act whispers of deeper meaning, every detail layered with unspoken truths. To truly grasp the ending, we must look beyond the glitter and listen to what the story is telling us about ambition, class, love, and the cost of progress. The first and most striking theme is power versus belonging. Bertha Russell embodies this struggle. She has spent the entire season clawing her way into the highest circles of society, proving again and again that money can buy influence. And yet, the finale reminds us that acceptance is not the same as belonging. When she finally stands at the center of the ballroom, triumphant, there is still an invisible wall around her. She has won the seat, but the whispers behind fans and the narrowed eyes of old money elites show that she will always be the outsider who forced her way in. The theme here is clear. Victory in society is hollow when it comes without true acceptance. And ambition often leaves one standing alone. Another theme that echoes loudly is tradition versus progress. George Russell's struggles in the business world capture this perfectly. His empire, built on innovation and strength, now faces resistance from those who fear change. The ending shows us that progress is never simple, it threatens the comfort of tradition, and those who benefit from the old ways will fight to the bitter end. The crumbling edges of George's empire symbolize the growing pains of a nation on the cusp of modernity. His story is not just about one man's fortune. It is about America itself, teetering between the safety of the past and the dangerous promise of the future. Marian Brooks' final choice shines a light on the theme of freedom versus duty. She wants love, she wants independence, but in this finale, she is forced to pay the price of defiance. Her storyline reminds us that women of this era, no matter how strong-willed, were bound by chains of expectation. The symbolism in her closing moments, the stillness of her expression, the silence heavy with what is left unsaid tells us that freedom always comes at a cost. Her arc leaves us with the question, is survival worth the sacrifice of happiness? Peggy Scott carries perhaps the most powerful theme of the finale, voice versus silence. In a world designed to erase her, Peggy refuses to be quiet. Her words cut through the noise of prejudice and tradition, and her arc becomes a symbol of courage. The finale shows her not as someone who has won the battle, but as someone who refuses to surrender it. Her presence in this episode is symbolic of progress itself, slow, painful, but unstoppable. The ink of her pen, the strength of her conviction, become weapons sharper than swords. Symbolism also runs deep in the imagery of the finale. The grand ballroom, bathed in golden light, is not simply a setting, it is a metaphor for the illusion of perfection. The glow hides the cracks beneath. Chandeliers shine, but shadows stretch long across the marble floors. Letters left unopened symbolize secrets too dangerous to reveal. A carriage disappearing into the fog is not just transport, it is the visual reminder that every choice leads into an uncertain future. These details are not accidental. They are the language of storytelling, pointing us toward the deeper truth that nothing in this world is secure, not even the golden walls of high society. And yet, the most important part of any finale is not just what it ends, it is what it begins. The final moments of Episode 8 are laced with questions, promises, and warnings of what is to come in Season 4. Bertha may wear her crown for now, but how long before it slips? George may still command respect, but will his empire collapse under the weight of enemies? Marian's quiet sorrow sets the stage for a future in which she must either reclaim her happiness or lose it forever. And Peggy's fire, though burning bright, will no doubt face even greater storms as she continues her battle. Against a world not yet ready to hear her voice, the setup for Season 4 is masterful. Instead of neat conclusions, we are left with a web of unresolved tensions, old money versus new money, men who build versus men who conspire, women who yield versus women who fight. Each thread is pulled tight, waiting to snap when the next season begins. The city itself seems restless, like a beast waiting to wake. In the end, the Gilded Age does what the best dramas always do. It reminds us that history is not made of dates and events, but of people who dream, who fight, who love, and who betray. Episode 8 closes not with a curtain, but with a door opening into the unknown. The characters stand on the threshold of a new age, and we, the audience, are left to wonder who will rise, who will fall, and who will be remembered when the golden glow finally fades.